Additional context. This paper delves into the complexities of parole suitability hearings within the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, CDCR, focusing on the case of inmate Byron Bunt. Parole hearings are a critical component of the American criminal justice system, representing a point where incarcerated individuals may be granted the opportunity to re-enter society before the end of their original sentence. However, these hearings are not simply about time served. They involve careful consideration of an inmate's behavior, potential risk to public safety, and demonstration of rehabilitation. This process is governed by specific regulations, such as Title 15, Section 3268.2 in California, which outlines conditions for restraining inmates during hearings if they pose a security risk. This specific hearing touches upon several important themes relevant to the broader field of criminal justice and parole administration. The initial concern regarding Bunt's potential violence and gang affiliation highlights the ongoing challenges correctional facilities face in managing and mitigating risks associated with incarcerated individuals, particularly those with a history of violent behavior or gang involvement. The use of mail interception as a means of gathering intelligence on gang activity reflects a common practice in prisons aimed at disrupting criminal networks and maintaining institutional security. Furthermore, the hearing's attention to Bunt's disabilities and his ability to participate underscores the importance of ensuring fair and equitable treatment for all inmates, regardless of their physical or mental condition. The legal framework surrounding parole hearings, including the role of state-appointed counsel, is designed to safeguard the rights of inmates and ensure that decisions are made in a just and transparent manner. 6 definitions. Definition 1, CDCR, California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation, the state agency responsible for managing prisons and parole. Definition 2, Central File, an inmate's official record containing information such as criminal history, disciplinary actions, and program participation. Definition 3, Rules Violation, a formal charge against an inmate for breaking prison regulations which can lead to disciplinary action. Definition 4, Deadly Weapon, any instrument or object capable of causing serious bodily injury or death, possession of which is prohibited in prison. Definition 5, Restraints, physical devices such as handcuffs or shackles used to control an inmate's movement and ensure safety. Definition 6, CDC, California Department of Corrections, the state agency responsible for managing prisons and parole.
Deputy Commissioner Tucker. Okay, we should be on the record. Presiding Commissioner MOSLEY. Today's date is January 5, 2012, and the time is approximately 1:10 p.m. before commencing the suitability hearing for inmate Bunt, CDCR number C41557. We want to discuss the institution's review of inmate Bunt's central file, which raises security concerns for them. So I will ask all the parties to identify themselves on the record. My name is Howard Mosley, MOSELEY, Presiding Commissioner, Deputy Commissioner Tucker. Stephen Tucker, TUCKER, Deputy Commissioner, Captain Wood. Troy Wood, Facility Captain, Security Housing Unit, WOOD Attorney, LIDDICOTE. Harry Liddicote, LIDDICOTE, State-Appointed Counsel for Mr. Bunt. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. Inmate Bunt is currently not in the hearing room as we discuss some of these security issues, but the institutional staff have notified the panel that the existence of 2 rules violations for possession of deadly weapons in 2006 and 2007, coupled with some more recent information that Captain Wood is about to describe, caused security concerns with regard to this inmate's participation in the hearing without restraints.
Definition: gang activity, actions or communications indicating involvement with a prison gang, which are strictly prohibited.
Captain Wood, we had an outgoing mail stop sent by inmate Bunt for gang activity on 5/24/10, and we intercepted some incoming gang activity on 2/23/10, again on 3/29/11, and again on 6/13/11. Those last 3 were incoming gang activity going towards Mr. Bunt.
Definition: Title 15, Section 3268.2. A specific regulation within the California Code of Regulations that outlines conditions for restraining inmates during hearings.
Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. Based on that information, Captain Wood and the institution have indicated they believe that pursuant to Title 15, Section 3268.2, There are grounds to restrain inmate Bunt during the hearing for the specific history that has been described, which causes a concern that he may become violent during the hearing if left unrestrained. Is that correct, Captain Wood? Captain Wood, that is correct. Presiding Commissioner Mosely, all right. Based on that representation, we simply wanted to make a record for this case going forward, and at this time, we'll take a short recess before we begin the full hearing. The time is approximately 1:12 p.m. off the record. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, we should be on the record.
7 definitions. Definition 1, Parole Suitability Hearing. A legal proceeding to determine if an inmate is suitable for release on parole, based on factors like rehabilitation and risk to public safety. Definition 2, Murder in the second degree. A criminal charge for intentional killing that is not premeditated or planned in advance. Definition 3, Enhancements. Additional penalties added to a base sentence due to specific circumstances of the crime, such as use of a weapon. Definition 4, Minimum eligible parole date. The earliest date an inmate becomes eligible for parole consideration, as determined by their sentence. Definition 5, BPH, Board of Parole Hearings. The agency responsible for conducting parole hearings and making parole decisions. Definition 6, IGI, Institutional Gang Investigator. A prison staff member responsible for investigating gang activity within the facility. Definition 7, IME, slang term for the Mexican Mafia.
Presiding Commissioner Mosely. Today's date is January 5th, 2012. The time is approximately 1:15 p.m. This is a parole suitability hearing for Mr. Bunt, who is present in the BPH hearing room at Pelican Bay State Prison. Mr. Bunt was received into the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation on December 8, 1988, subsequent to a conviction for murder in the second degree in Santa Barbara County case, number SM58113. Based on that conviction and additional enhancements, Mr. Bunt is serving a sentence of 21 years to life, and the department has determined his minimum eligible parole date to be May 12, 2006. The victim in this case was Anthony Anciola, ANCIOLA. This hearing is being audio recorded, so I'm going to ask that all the parties state their full name, spell their last name, and when it's your turn, Mr. Bunt, if you would also give us your CDC number, Inmate Bunt. Okay. Presiding Commissioner Mosely. My name is Howard Mossey, Mosely. Presiding Commissioner, Deputy Commissioner Tucker. Stephen Tucker, TUCKER, Deputy Commissioner. Attorney LIDDICOTE. Harry Liddicote, LIDDICOTE, State-Appointed Counsel for Mr. Bunt, Inmate Bunt, Byron Bunt. Bunt, BUNT C41557. There's anything else you need to read during this hearing, you'll be able to do that. Inmate Bunt, I'll be fine. Presiding Commissioner Mosely. Great. It's a small hearing room, but I need to ask anyway. Can you hear me okay? Inmate Bunt, fine. Presiding Commissioner Mosely. All right, good. And then the other question is to ask about your mobility. Were you able to walk here okay? Inmate Bunt, yes. Presiding Commissioner Mosely. All right. So those are the traditional kinds of disabilities, but there may be some other disability that you know of that would affect your ability to participate today. Can you think of any? Inmate Bunt, none.
2 definitions. Definition 1, DECS database. A database used by the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation to track information about inmates, including disabilities. Definition 2, Form 1073. A California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation form related to inmate disability status and accommodation needs.
Presiding Commissioner Mosely. Okay. I took a look at the DECS database and the Form 1073 that you signed on June 21, 2011. It basically looked at your record to see if there were any disabilities, and none were identified. And then you also checked the box that you didn't think you needed any help for this hearing. Do you remember that? Inmate Bunt, yes. Inmate Bunt, yes. Presiding Commissioner Mosely. Is it your opinion that at least thus far in the process, your rights have been met? Inmate Bunt, yes, they have. Presiding Commissioner Mosely. All right. Does counsel concur? Attorney LIDDICOTE, I agree.
Two definitions. Definition 1, Hearing Checklist. A list of documents included in the Board of Parole Hearings packet confirming that all necessary materials have been provided. Definition 2, Board Packet. A collection of documents and reports relevant to an inmate's parole suitability hearing provided to the Board of Parole Hearings.
Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, all right. So at this time, I'm going to pass a hearing checklist to your attorney, and it's basically a list of all the documents that were provided in the board packet. And so I've marked it as Exhibit Number 1, dated and signed it, and I'm going to ask your attorney to countersign it if he agrees that he has all the materials contained on that checklist. Attorney LIDDICOT, yes. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, thank you. Counsel, are there any other documents that you wish to bring to our attention for today's hearing? Attorney LIDDICOT, yes, there are several. Inmate Bunt, I'm not sure if you received, can I speak? Attorney LIDDICOT, yes, he can speak because he has one I got was from the police department. I never received one from the district attorney's office. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, all right. The panel also has a copy of a letter from the police department of the city of Lompoc. Inmate Bunt, okay. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, is that correct? Inmate Bunt, yes. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, okay, and so you have one of those too. Inmate Bunt, yes. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, all right. So that looks like all the documentation, meaning letters and things that you want to introduce. Inmate Bunt, okay.
Definition. Preliminary objections. Legal arguments raised before a hearing begins, challenging the admissibility of evidence or the process itself.
Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. So now I would ask, are there any preliminary objections before we begin? Inmate Bunt, no.
Definition. Psych report, a psychological evaluation of an inmate, used to assess their mental state, risk factors, and suitability for parole.
Attorney LIDDICOT, yes, that would be about the psych report. I believe there's something in that document that he has. Inmate Bunt, okay, let me see if I can find that. Attorney LIDDICOT, that relates to a possible objection to the entry of the psych report, and I haven't seen it. Inmate Bunt, here. It just says, Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. Okay. Then what we'll do, because it's important that you have all your rights exercised, and one of them is to work with counsel on any objections. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a 5-minute recess or longer, but you consult with your attorney regarding the document you have right now. That way, when we return, you can express whatever legal objection you have to the proceedings. The time is approximately 1:23 p.m. Attorney LIDDICOT. It wouldn't work for me to go back to where he's in the holding room. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, we're going to leave you in this room. Attorney LIDDICOT, because that glass, unidentified correctional officer, we can't leave and they're supposed to have a Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. No, you're going to Deputy Commissioner Tucker. We're going to stay. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, you're going to stay. Stay. Attorney LIDDICOT, you can stay. 1:30 p.m. and so we'll return to the matter of any 1:30 p.m. and so we'll return to the matter of any objections before we proceed with the hearing. Attorney LIDDICOT. Okay. I would submit to the board first of all this article from California Lifer newsletter. Board shenanigans continue in FAD psych regulation amendments as an objection to the use of the psych report. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. And what's the basis of the objection? What's the grounds? Attorney LIDDICOT. It's done untimely, that the reports haven't been properly validated.
Two definitions. Definition 1, OAL, Office of Administrative Law, a California state agency that reviews and approves regulations proposed by other state agencies. Definition 2, Underground Rule, a policy or regulation that has not been formally approved by the Office of Administrative Law, OAL, and made available to the public.
Inmate Bunt. And at the time that the report was done, the actual policy hadn't been approved by the OAL in Sacramento, so that it was deemed an underground rule. I believe at the time, my evaluation had been conducted. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, all right. So the Office of Administrative Laws is your reference to OAL, and so, Inmate Bunt. Right.
Definition: risk assessment, an evaluation of an inmate's potential for future violence or criminal behavior, often used in parole decisions.
Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. The objection is that your particular risk assessment was prepared how? Inmate Bunt, during the time when the policy had been actually an underground rule.
Definition: forensic assessment division, a division within the Board of Parole Hearings that conducts psychological evaluations of inmates.
Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. All right. So I think I understand your objection, and that is that there was a time when the policies of the Forensic Assessment Division, Inmate Bunt. Right. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. FAD, were part of the OAL process for being turned into a regulation. Inmate Bunt. Right. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. And so you're suggesting that your psychological risk assessment, which occurred by interview on August 2, 2009, and was subsequently prepared and approved on September 3, 2009, is somehow flawed because it occurred while that process was underway or before it had been completed. Inmate Bunt. Correct. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. I mean, is that kind of, I don't mean to put words in your mouth. I'm just trying to understand your objection.
Definition: Penal Code, the body of laws in California that defines crimes and their punishments.
Inmate Bunt. That it had not been actually approved under Penal Code through the OAL in Sacramento. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. Okay, it had not been approved as a regulation. Inmate Bunt. Right. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. Under the OAL. So it's my understanding that in fact, there was a time period during which the FAD's procedures were under review and subject to public comment. Inmate Bunt. Right. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. There was a request from OAL that there be modifications made to the regulations which occurred, and then they went back out to public comment again, and that currently they have been approved. Inmate Bunt. They approved Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY, and have been made regulation. So as of today, those FAD guidelines are approved through the OAL process and regulations. Inmate Bunt. Okay. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. Now, I understand your objection, that when your risk assessment was being prepared, and I don't know the exact timing, that maybe this was back when the process was still underway. Inmate Bunt. Right. I don't even know if it had been under process at that time, being reevaluated, but it had come to that a couple of times, as you say, and then it came to the point to where it had just been reapproved. But another thing that an issue that I had with that was that he came to speak to me and only spoke with me for about 20 minutes and writes this report. And I don't want to give too much to his actual report, because he has a lot to work with himself. So, but if it was deemed an underground rule, I just want to object to that as being applied to me. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. Okay. Inmate Bunt. If it is, in fact, going to be applied to me in this hearing. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. Well, let me explain where I think we're at, based on the concerns you just expressed. The rules that you're describing for the regulations that determine how the Forensic Assessment Division does its work are currently approved into, I believe, Title 15. It may be another title. Inmate Bunt. Just recently. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. Just recently. That's correct. Now, my question would be whether those rules were in place when your particular risk assessment was done or not. Is there something about your risk assessment that is in error or is incorrect in itself? Because just the fact that the rules themselves came in at a certain time doesn't necessarily make the information in the risk assessment incorrect. Inmate Bunt. Right. That's what I want to. It's really Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. Is there some information in here that you consider to be wrong? Be able to do during the hearing. Inmate Bunt. Okay. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. Any other preliminary objections?
Definition: gang validation, the process by which prison officials formally recognize an inmate as a member or associate of a gang.
Attorney LIDDICOT. Yes to his gang validation, and I have Inmate Bunt. Thank you.
Two definitions. Definition 1. Court of Appeal 5th Appellate District. One of the divisions of the California Courts of Appeal, which reviews decisions of the superior courts within its district. Definition 2. In re Elvin Cabrera, case number FO59511. A specific legal case that sets precedent regarding the type of evidence that can be used to validate gang membership.
Attorney LIDDICOTE. Things in support of that objection. The Court of Appeal 5th Appellate District in re Elvin Cabrera, case number FO59511, which states that you can't use just artwork to validate a gang membership, and that inmate BUNT, or association. Attorney LIDDICOTE, or association, and that's what Mr. Bunt alleges has been done in his case. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, all right. So it's your contention that your recent gang revalidation, inmate BUNT, in January. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, in January was based solely on artwork or tattoos. Inmate BUNT, right here. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, is that correct? Inmate BUNT, no. Artwork from Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, actual artwork. Is that you're concerned that this artwork that you've brought with you today is something that we're going to rely on to determine your unsuitability, with so much additional information to consider? Inmate BUNT, okay. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, then we will not rely on your artwork in determining suitability or unsuitability. Inmate BUNT, okay. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. So I'm going to sustain the objection, but only insofar as I'm indicating that the panel will not be considering the artwork or rely on the artwork in determining suitability or unsuitability today. Attorney LIDDICOTE, thank you. Inmate BUNT, all right, thank you. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, are there any other preliminary objections? Attorney LIDDICOTE, no, and thank you very much for entertaining what we did have. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, understandable. Then, at this time, Mr. Bunt, as I just indicated, of course the panel has had an opportunity to review the complete board packet, as well as the central file. If any other portions of the confidential section of your central file are relied upon, you'll be notified of that. Inmate BUNT, okay. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, during the decision of this case. What's important for you to understand, though, is that we're not here to determine or relitigate, if you will, your original conviction. This panel accepts as true the findings of the original court and then the appellate courts. Because what we're here to do today is we're here to decide if you're suitable for parole. Inmate BUNT, right.
2 definitions. Definition 1, life crime. The offense for which an inmate is serving a life sentence, often a serious or violent crime. Definition 2, rehabilitative efforts. Actions taken by an inmate to demonstrate positive change and personal growth, such as participating in programs or therapy.
Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, which means we want to talk to you about your background. We want to talk to you about the life crime, and we want to talk to you about your rehabilitative efforts while you've been incarcerated. And so, we want to really look at the whole picture. We want to ask you a lot of questions about that, and then we hope that in response to our questions, that you are going to be 100% truthful. That's really the key to this hearing, because the easiest way to trip yourself up is to repeat old lies or start new lies. What I mean by that is you may find that today, with the passage of time, either because you have a better understanding or you're more prepared to accept some of the facts of your past, that you are willing to change an answer that you've given in the past. And that's perfectly okay. Telling the whole truth today is more important than worrying about whether your answers have been consistent. So, at the risk of being inconsistent, please focus more on being completely truthful. Inmate BUNT, exactly. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, to the questions that are presented to you today. To do that, then, I'm going to ask you to raise your right arm so that I can swear you in. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give at this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Inmate BUNT, I do. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, all right then. I'm going to proceed by asking you questions regarding your background and the life crime, and then Deputy Commissioner Tucker is going to ask you about your rehabilitative efforts while you've been incarcerated. Inmate Bunt, okay. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. To do that, I tend to proceed very chronological, so if you just begin by telling us, where you grew up, how big your family was, a little bit about your schooling, we'll start there.
3 definitions. Definition 1, continuation school, an alternative education program for students who are at risk of dropping out of high school. Definition 2, juvenile delinquency matters, legal issues involving minors who have committed acts that would be crimes if committed by adults. Definition 3, truancy, the act of being absent from school without a valid excuse.
Inmate Bunt, okay. I was born and raised in Santa Barbara. My mother, Mary Cordero, she had divorced my father when I was real young. She remarried my stepfather, Reggie Cordero, and we grew up there in Santa Barbara. For a while, I went to school there in Franklin Elementary and to the junior high, Santa Barbara Junior High for a while until I started continuation school, started messing up, juvenile delinquency matters and presiding commissioner MOSELEY. So is that what got you into continuation school, the delinquency Inmate Bunt? The truancy, not showing up to school, ditching school too much, that they had had enough and bullied me out and sent me to continuation school. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. Now, what were you doing when you were ditching? What is it that you were doing besides going to school, Inmate Bunt? Staying home or just hanging out at the parks? Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. And what kind of stuff would you do there? I mean, just to pass the time, it's a whole day. Were you getting into drinking? Were you getting into Inmate Bunt? Not so much partying or anything like that, but just hanging out with other kids that were doing the same thing and being rebellious, I guess. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. So during that phase, at what point? I think you had a first arrest at a pretty young age. When was that, Inmate Bunt? That was maybe 75 or so. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. How old were you, Inmate Bunt? Maybe 14, 15. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. And what was it for? Do you remember, Inmate Bunt? A burglary, I believe. For breaking into a school, Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. Okay. So what was that about? Were you alone? Why did you get into that, Inmate Bunt? Yeah. Just bored around the neighborhood and one day just decided to get malicious and break into a school. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. And you were alone, Inmate Bunt? Yes. Well, there was somebody else with me. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. There was a one friend or somebody that was with you. Inmate Bunt, yes. 3 Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. So what were you after? What were you trying to get out of the school? 5 Inmate Bunt, nothing, just nothing in particular. Just spur of the moment, kind of stupid thing to do. 8 Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. And so when was 9 the next time you got in trouble? 10 Inmate Bunt. After that, I believe I was 11 runaway and I believe I tried to steal someone's bike. 12 and I was accused of whipping him with an electrical 13 cord. 14 Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. So the person 15 was there when you took their bike? 16 Inmate Bunt. I didn't actually take his bike. I 17 was just messing with him. 18 Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. Okay. So what 19 happened? 20 Inmate Bunt. I was messing with him, trying to 21 get his bike, and I had an electrical cord, and I 22 whipped him. 23 Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. And you were 24 after the bike or something else. Inmate Bunt. Well, I think I was just messing with the kid because we had always had little run-ins together, and that day, I just happened to have a cord to try to act the better of him that day. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. So how old were you at that time? Inmate Bunt. I was maybe 15 still. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. And were there any other run-ins with the law? Inmate Bunt. Another burglary, the same school. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. Back to the same school. Inmate Bunt. Yes. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. How did that one go down? Inmate Bunt. Not too good, same thing. Just went and broke into the school, something to do, and took a few items and that was it. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. After that, or was that the incident with the knife? Inmate Bunt. It says in my report that I used a knife. But actually, when they were looking for me for the burglary, I was arrested and had possession of a knife, and that's how that got in there. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. Okay. So did you have the knife when you were doing the burglary? Inmate Bunt, no. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, so later, but before you were arrested. Inmate Bunt, when I was yes. When they were looking for me for the burglary, when they did find me, I had I was in possession of a knife. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, and so what about the auto theft? Was that your next run-in?
Definition: placement and out-of-home living arrangement for juveniles who have been removed from their parents' custody.
Inmate Bunt, yes. Yeah, that was later on when I was put in a placement. And in fact, that was the second placement I was put into, and one day just wanted to get out of there, and I took off in their car. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, whose car? Inmate Bunt, one of the staff. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, at the placement center. Inmate Bunt, yes. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, I see, and we talked about the truancies. There was also a trespassing incident. Do you remember that?
Definition: boys' camp, a type of juvenile detention facility, often located in a rural setting.
Inmate Bunt, that was when I was in boys' camp. There was cabins in the area, and where we were working at, a buddy and I were around there working, and I just happened to want to just snoop around, and it was an empty cabin, but I broke in anyway.
3 definitions. Definition 1, street gang. An informal group of people who may engage in criminal activity but are not necessarily affiliated with a larger, more structured gang. Definition 2, jumped in. A violent initiation ritual sometimes required for membership in a gang. Definition 3, GED, General Education Development, a high school equivalency diploma.
Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. So what do you think was going on in all this time that these crimes were progressively getting worse? Were you using substances at that time? Were you getting involved in gangs? What were the influences? Inmate Bunt, no. At that point, no. I believe it was just my attitudes towards not obeying the rules, following the rules, not listening to my parents, wanting to do my own thing, not listen to anybody, just being rebellious. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. Now, eventually you did get involved with gangs, right, Inmate Bunt? Well, yes, I'd say yes, but a street gang in the Santa Barbara area. I wouldn't really call it a gang to where actual initiations into an official type gang thing was done. It was just a group of guys. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. It didn't require getting jumped in. Inmate Bunt. Number Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. All right. So nevertheless, though, they engaged in some criminal behavior, right, Inmate Bunt? It was yes. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. What kind of stuff? Inmate Bunt, just out drinking, partying, a lot of that. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. Drugs. Inmate Bunt, drugs and alcohol was used. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. Were they involved in the sale of drugs? Inmate Bunt. No, not that. Well, I'm sure some did, but it wasn't something I remember ever being discussed as being part of what a group of guys should do. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. So you didn't get involved in selling drugs. Inmate Bunt. Number Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. Now, at this point, how old are you when you're involved with this? Inmate Bunt. Probably 16, 17. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. And eventually you were expelled from high school. Is that right? Inmate Bunt. Well, I never went to high school. I had a Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. You never went to high school. Inmate Bunt. From junior high, I went to continuation school, and from then on out, I was always involving her escalated to so much violence. Inmate Bunt. Okay. Well, the girl I was with that day was an old friend and acquaintance that I had gone out with several times in the Santa Barbara area. That day, earlier in the morning, we were at the beach having a barbecue, drinking, and friends decided to drive up to the Lompoc area where other friends lived and wanted to pick up my brother's acquaintance. And so that's how we ended up from Santa Barbara driving up to Lompoc, and we had actually wanted to go and intended to go to another friend's house, who ended up there later on, but she wasn't there, so we ended up at the home where the incident occurred, where the Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. And so how did it exactly go down? Inmate Bunt. We were there drinking, enjoying ourselves, waiting for the other girl to get back home. My brother was trying to get in touch with her so that we could go and then head back to Santa Barbara, but we ended up staying there drinking. Other friends that were there at the house decided to go to a party. I didn't want to go. I was a little too wasted. The girl that I was with decided to stay with me to take care of the kids that were there, her daughter and the daughter of the woman that lived there, the friend that lived there, and so they took off and went to their party. Later on that evening, just Mr. Anciola, Tony, and a girlfriend, Renee. I don't know if they were married. I guess his fiancée, they came back, or Renee came home first and was crying and screaming with the girl that I was with. So they were going on and on about how Tony and Renee had gotten into a fight, and during that time, Tony came home, and he and Renee got into it, arguing. I don't remember so much but what they were arguing about, but they were just going at it, and it got kind of rough. I was sitting there on the couch not wanting to get into anything, but I was concerned. I knew that Renee was pregnant, and when it started getting a little too rough, I did get up, but it was when Renee told me to help her out. And the girl I was with, Angela, she had actually tried to get them to leave, like Renee was telling him. And anyways, I got up, went to go help her out, and Tony and I got into it. And I guess we shoved each other around for a minute until we started kind of like wrestling. And I had a knife on my waistband, and I don't know exactly how I ended up with it, but I probably thought that he was going for it or touched it or something, and I got a hold of it and started to stab him. And it went by so fast, and he took off out of the house, out of the through your mind as you were doing that. Inmate Bunt, I can't say exactly, but all I could have thought was get him off me, I guess. And I don't even know if I realized that I was actually stabbing him that repeatedly. I just kind of seen it as we were fighting, but I actually had a knife and was stabbing him. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. During the stabbing, or I should say, just prior to the stabbing, had you consumed any alcohol? Inmate Bunt, yes. Presiding Commissioner Moseley, how much? Inmate Bunt, I started drinking earlier that morning, drinking beer at the barbecue at the beach in Santa Barbara, and up along the way to driving up to Lompoc, we purchased some bottles of tequila, and that's what really took me over the edge right there. Presiding Commissioner Moseley, did you use any drugs that day?
Two definitions. Definition 1, narcotic use, the use of illegal drugs. Definition 2, no tracks on drugs program, a program designed to monitor and prevent drug use, often involving drug testing.
Inmate Bunt, no, I hadn't. I was, in fact, actually on the no tracks on drugs program for narcotic use. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. So in essence, you're now mixing alcohol, a lot of alcohol, with the knife and those two, along with Inmate Bunt. Worst combination. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. Along with what, some anger? I mean, what caused you to get involved?
Definition. Underlying anger issues, deep-seated feelings of anger that may contribute to violent behavior.
Inmate Bunt, I don't want to use alcohol as an excuse for what happened, but because so I would figure associating alcohol was rather a good time. So there has to be some kind of underlying anger issues or something to react like that. I would think, anyhow. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. Because you got into an argument that wasn't yours, right, if I understood you story. Inmate Bunt, I didn't actually argue with anyone until I got up and was just trying to tell Tony to just leave and come back later, and when he challenged me about it, I guess, that's when it escalated to shoving each other around. And it just happened so quick that I didn't really have any time to consider anything, aside from getting him off of Renee. Presiding Commissioner Moseley, why not just leave it at fists? Why wasn't that an option? Inmate Bunt, I would think that that's how it should have been, and that's what I meant when I say it escalated and got out of hand. I think when we started wrestling, and the knife, I think when he tried to grab a hold of me, didn't. I guess he tried to grab for the knife. And 2, that's when I reached for it, and that might have to do 3 with from carrying a knife around. Some guys would try 4 to snatch it out of my waistband if I was somewhere else 5 with it, and my usual reaction was to snatch it real 6 quick. And that's the only thing I could think of how I 7 was able to do that, even as drunk as I was. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. But aren't you kind of guessing at what was going through his mind? Inmate Bunt, yes. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. For all you know, he was just trying to prevent you from getting the knife, or he was just trying to hunt you. Inmate Bunt, that could have been. Presiding Commissioner Moseley, or trying to push you. Inmate Bunt, Well, I thought really he was trying to tackle me, but it was within where the knife was, so I can't. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. Right. So it was nearby, but you don't actually know why he did what he did. You're kind of guessing that maybe he was going for the knife, but you don't know what was in his head. Inmate Bunt, no I don't. No I don't. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. By having that knife on you, it raised the stakes for everybody, right, including him, if he was fighting with you. Inmate Bunt, right. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. Seeing that knife on you, everyone would recognize that whoever owned the knife owned the fight, right? Inmate Bunt could be. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. Well, I guess what I'm suggesting is that by having the knife on you in the first place, you raised the stakes of every fist fight, didn't you? Inmate Bunt, I raised the stakes. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. Meaning every fist fight could turn into a knifing, because as long as you had it on you, either you'd use it or somebody else could use it. Inmate Bunt, it could have escalated to that. That's a possibility. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. The possibility of escalating. Inmate Bunt, exactly right. So that's my responsibility there for having it in the first place. But I didn't think of it at the time as, I guess, not serious enough that something could actually happen to where an incident could occur and I'd end up having to use or using this weapon. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. It's a pretty big jump, of course, because there's obviously a criminal history that we've discussed. Inmate Bunt, right. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. And a lot of, burglaries and thefts, drug use. I know from your discussion with the psychologist, you disclosed that you'd been using marijuana. Inmate Bunt, yeah, I smoked, sure. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. As well as heroin. Inmate Bunt, yeah. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. In addition to the alcohol we talked about. But this kind of, naked violence by using the knife was a pretty big jump. Inmate Bunt, it sure was. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. So what do you think was going on in your life at that time that you could make that kind of leap where inaudible? Inmate Bunt, I often wondered about that. I don't know if it was a sense of hopelessness or something from having done so much time and been in so much trouble, or if I was trying to prove that I was this tough guy or something. I can't say exactly, but because I was raised okay. I never was involved in any kind of other violent issues, so that makes me wonder as well. How could I have thought of reacting in this way and not just stabbing him one time, but repeatedly? And I know I was drunk, but still, I can't use that as an excuse to react like that in so violent a way.
Definition. Associate, someone who is connected to or works with a gang, but is not a formal member.
Presiding Commissioner Moseley. When you think back on your actions, how would you describe the kind of person you were when the stabbing happened? Inmate Bunt. The kind of a person I was, well, I was out of control, I guess. I had tried to go to work, tried to clean up. I got on the drug program. I thought I was doing all right. I couldn't, it was hard to find a job. I was working for a minute, got laid off, but I was doing a lot of side work, and that was working out all right. And I thought I was doing pretty good, in fact, but I still had that way where I had to maybe my image was more important to me, to others, my friends, and out in the neighborhood, and wanted to portray myself as this neighborhood guy, a tough guy or something, that wanted a drink and associate and stuff like that with being cool, or getting the girls. And so it was like not wanting to be responsible. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. Let's talk about that image issue for a while. Is that what led you to get some of the tattoos that you have? Inmate Bunt, yeah. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. So how old were you when you got your first tattoo?
Definition. Juvenile hall, a detention facility for minors who have been arrested or are awaiting court appearances.
Inmate Bunt, pretty young, 15, around there, when I started going to juvenile hall placement. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. And which tattoo is it? Inmate Bunt, pretty much all of them. I got them all when I was a kid. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. Okay, why don't you describe for us what the tattoos are? Inmate Bunt, they're mostly initials. Santa Barbara, and that's it. Mostly it's Santa Barbara. Presiding Commissioner Moseley. So what was Santa Barbara representing? Inmate Bunt, a part of the neighborhood. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. Was it a gang reference, and was there a group that called itself Santa Barbara? Inmate Bunt, it referenced to trying to play the role of a gang. Inmate Bunt, probably getting out because I don't think it's done in CDC. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY, I don't know what their current programs are now. Inmate Bunt, I wouldn't think so. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. One of the things I did want to talk to you about, and it gives you an opportunity to also discuss your social history, is that you have one son, correct? Inmate Bunt, yes, and a daughter. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY, and a daughter, I'm sorry. So you have a son and a daughter. And so could you tell us a little bit about the relationships that you had with the women who were mothers of those children? Was it the same woman? Inmate Bunt, no. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY, all right, so tell us a little about that. Inmate Bunt, two different women, Gracie Lopez and Kathy Armillo, that I've known for a while in Santa Barbara area where we lived, and I was actually with them both at the same time. They were both pregnant at the same time. My son and daughter are only a month apart, but I was close with them both, and I've remained close relationship with Gracie, my son's one mother. They live up in Washington, in Olympia, the two capital there, and they're doing pretty good. My son is 3 kind of struggling with his bills, I guess, but they're 4 doing all right. We remained in touch. I've been 5 locked up his whole life, so it's difficult for him. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY, how old is he now? Inmate Bunt, 31, just turned 31. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY, how old is your daughter? Inmate Bunt, 31, she just turned 31 also. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. So just to, touch on that issue, because I know it's important to you, one factor that indicates an unstable social history would be the fact that you simultaneously impregnated 2 different women. Inmate Bunt, that's right. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. Right. So you can appreciate why a psychologist might consider that an unstable relationship, because what it means is that you weren't committed to one or the other. Inmate Bunt, I understand that. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY, you weren't reliable for each of them. All right. 1 Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY, okay, so that too wasn't a factor. But I can see where these 2-3 relationships with these women, especially resulting in 4 children. Inmate Bunt, right. 6 Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY, could be a 7 factor. Is there anything else about your social 8 history back then, though, that you wanted to bring out 9 that you thought wasn't captured in the risk assessment? Inmate Bunt, number 11 Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. So obviously, in 12 describing your background and then the life 13 crime and some of the circumstances around there, you 14 know, there's a number of issues going on. 1 is the 15 alcohol. Inmate Bunt, yeah. 17 Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. Was a big 18 factor, especially on that day, but the other is this 19 anger in you. If that's what it was, that could lead to 20 such a violent reaction. Inmate Bunt, right. 22 Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. As stabbing a 23 person to death, especially 11 times in such a close, 24 personal way. And so what's important for this panel is 25 to look at the rest of your picture, to understand if the person who committed those crimes has changed sufficiently that you no longer pose a danger to society. Inmate Bunt, okay. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. And so for that, I'm going to ask Deputy Commissioner Tucker to ask any follow-up questions he may have about the areas I covered, but then also address your rehabilitation activities while incarcerated. Inmate Bunt, okay. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, but first I made myself some notes here, and these are follow-up questions to your discussion with the Commissioner. I didn't want to interrupt his thought processes, but early on I noticed your countenance, your facial expressions, when you talked about your youth and you talked about your reckless youth, you kind of lit up. You smiled. Tell me, what was going through your mind at that time? Inmate Bunt, I was just silly about it, Sometimes often I've sat back and Deputy Commissioner Tucker, are you kind of proud of that? Inmate Bunt, I can't say that's drawn from being proud, because it's embarrassing, in fact, and to me, I reflected on a lot of that. I think is ridiculous and trying to Deputy Commissioner Tucker. So maybe it's a little bit of both. Maybe you're kind of proud of being that reckless youth, but you're a little bit embarrassed by it now. Inmate Bunt, well, I think I was then. I think it meant a lot to me then. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, you were kind of proud of it then, yeah. Inmate Bunt, well, because there's that role that you're trying to play, and it was recognized, and I think I played off of that. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, you talked about, being in the tough guy role, and you carried the knife around in it. You talked about other people trying to take it off your hip and stuff like that, and having to, kind of fight it off. So it sounds like that might have been something that was part of your persona at the time. Inmate Bunt, my persona. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, how you present yourself, your self-presentation, your image of yourself. Inmate Bunt, right. Everything now is landed me where I am, and it caused a lot of harm to a lot of people. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, okay, all right. With that, let's move on to the post-conviction factors. What we will do here is I'll suggest that we just kind of move through this information that's in your file here a bit at a time, and we got a couple of them around here, maybe 3. Yeah, there's 3 of them here, as a matter of fact, and what we'll do is we'll move through this information. I'll kind of check in with you to make sure it's accurate. You may need to add something or clarify. Inmate Bunt, okay.
4 definitions. Definition 1, SHU, Security Housing Unit. A type of prison unit used to house inmates who pose a high security risk. Definition 2, Indeterminate SHU. A security housing unit where inmates are held for an indefinite period based on their behavior and gang affiliation. Definition 3, Office of Criminal Justice. A state agency that investigates and prosecutes criminal activity. Definition 4, Mexican Mafia. A powerful prison gang with significant influence both inside and outside of correctional facilities.
Deputy Commissioner Tucker. Or you may disagree and want to offer some information, on your position on things. So what we'll do here is kind of get some generally descriptive information. You're currently in the Pelican Bay SHU on an indeterminate SHU because of the Office of Criminal Justice. The department's investigators have determined that you're an associate of the Mexican Mafia, and that's why you're in the SHU program. Inmate Bunt, yes, Deputy Commissioner Tucker, because of those Inmate Bunt validation. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, that determination, that validation of your association. And that last occurred on 9/16/2010, and you've been here for a little bit over 10 years. Inmate Bunt, yes.
Definition. Points, a system used to assess an inmate's behavior and risk level, which can affect their housing assignment and parole eligibility.
Deputy Commissioner Tucker, okay, you have 231 points and you're in the Pelican Bay SHU. How are your points doing? Are they going up or are they coming down?
Definition. Disciplinary 115s. Formal reports of inmate misconduct, also known as rule violations, which can result in penalties.
Inmate Bunt. They recently went up several years ago due to disciplinary 115s for possession of a weapon.
Definition. Parole plans, an inmate's proposed living arrangements, employment, and other support systems upon release from prison.
Deputy Commissioner Tucker, okay. Let's take a look here at your last hearing. You actually had a last hearing was on 1/26/05, and you got a 5-year denial. The panel suggested at that time that you become and remain disciplinary-free, get some self-help, learn a trade, finish your GED, and I guess that was pretty much it. There was a 3-year review on 1/28/08, and they determined that there was insufficient change to grant you a hearing sooner. And then on 9/30/09, you were granted a 2-year waiver, because I guess you, Inmate Bunt, I wanted to get better parole plans.
Definition. Disciplinaries, official records of inmate misconduct or rule violations within the correctional system.
Deputy Commissioner Tucker, better parole plans. Okay, all right. Now, since 2005, you've had a few disciplinaries. Is that information pretty correct up to that point? Inmate Bunt, yes. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, okay. So since 2005, I want to go back here and make sure that I just right here, okay? That's a little bit too far back. Okay, here's a disciplinary on 12/23/06. It says possession of a deadly weapon. What was that? Inmate Bunt, a razor blade. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, a razor blade. Inmate Bunt, 07. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, number 2006. Inmate Bunt, okay, that was a razor blade. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, okay, and looks like it was Inmate Bunt, found in my dictionary. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, found in your dictionary, and it was in a piece of foil. Inmate Bunt, I think so, it might have been in a piece of foil. I don't remember. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, yeah, it was in the dictionary.
2 definitions. Definition 1, inmate manufactured weapon. A weapon created by an inmate using materials found within the prison. Definition 2, clear Lexan. A durable, transparent plastic material often used in prisons for security purposes.
Inmate Bunt, yeah, I just remember that. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, the Oxford Dictionary. And then there's another one here where it says it's an inmate manufactured weapon. It was taped under the toilet. It was clear Lexan, measures about 4 inches long, 1 inch wide, and 1 4-inch thick. Inmate Bunt, yeah, piece of plexiglass. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, yeah, was that yours? Inmate Bunt, yeah. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, okay. And then we've got something here that's pending from last fall on this hunger strike. Inmate Bunt, yes.
Definition. Adjudicated, formally judged or decided by a court or hearing.
Deputy Commissioner Tucker, has that been adjudicated?
Definition. Disposition, the final outcome or resolution of a legal case or disciplinary matter.
Inmate Bunt, I was found guilty, but no disposition has been made.
2 definitions. Definition 1, contraband. Any item that is prohibited in prison, such as weapons, drugs, or unauthorized communication devices. Definition 2, cellies, other inmates that share the same cell.
Deputy Commissioner Tucker, okay. So tell me, what happened between 2005 and now you got these disciplinaries, especially the weapons one. I got to just ask you about Inmate Bunt. Yeah, it makes me wonder too. That was pretty dang stupid of me there of wanting to hold on to that stuff. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, still arming yourself with a knife to be a tough guy, Inmate Bunt. Well, I don't want to try to lighten it, but it was, in fact, a weapon. It could have been used as a weapon. But when I got a hold of it, my intention was to take a chunk off of that to use for my arts and crafts stuff in the cell as I was using the razor blade for. I've had cellies. I had no intention of using either one of them as a weapon. I've had opportunities to do that if I had that intention when the cell doors have popped open, or like I said, when I've had cellies. But still, I don't want to try to lighten that. I did have contraband and I blew it. That was real stupid, and it's Deputy Commissioner Tucker. You're smiling again, Inmate Bunt. Well, because it's like I wonder how, knowing that how it's going to affect me in the future, especially here in this board hearing, I should have considered that. And it's just real dumb, and I have to suffer the consequences. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, okay. All right. Before that, there was 3 incidents of alcohol. There was more possessions of weapon. There was a slashing assault. Man, this violence, it just keeps up, the weapons and the violence. Inmate Bunt, yes. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, and there's alcohol in prison. You had alcohol before you came to prison, so it's just like, Inmate Bunt, what's with this guy? Deputy Commissioner Tucker, yeah, I'm just trying to say, you know what, I'm not getting it. Inmate Bunt, I understand. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, I'm not getting it. Inmate Bunt, when I first came to prison, that was earlier, the early years when I had come, and I think I was still caught up in that trying to portray that role that, well, I'm here now and I got to make my mark, I guess. And that's the only thing I could figure out because Deputy Commissioner Tucker. Well, the last panel apparently didn't make any impression on you, did you? You got these 2 serious disciplinaries. Inmate Bunt, yeah. I guess I didn't take serious enough what I was in possession of because I didn't see them as to me arming myself with weapons, although they could be used as weapons. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, well, that Lexan, you could do some serious damage with that.
Definition. Counseling chronos. Brief reports documenting counseling sessions or interactions with inmates, often related to behavioral issues.
Inmate Bunt, yeah. In fact, if you could see it, I doled down the edges so that it wasn't sharp. It had a point, but I tried to take that down, and what I wanted to do was just try to get a chunk out of that so I could use it for my hobby crafts, but Deputy Commissioner Tucker. What are your hobby crafts, Inmate Bunt? Well, I make picture frames, and it's easier when you have maybe an ice cream stick, a piece of material, which we can't have no plastic or anything. So it would have been a lot easier for me to have something like that to work with my projects where I have to go through paper to sew the things up. Deputy Commissioner Tucker. Okay. All right, Inmate Bunt. But I could have tried to use a whole lot of other things than holding on to that. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, you got a bunch of counseling chronos. See, the last one is you refused to be escorted to a medical appointment. Inmate Bunt. Yeah, that's pretty recent. They just started doing that, Deputy Commissioner Tucker. So why didn't you want to go see the medical person for? Inmate Bunt. I believe it was for a chronic care appointment. I'm not sure. But I believe I was either working out or taking a bird bath and the escorts officer come. We don't get a heads up about medical appointment. They just show up, and if you're not ready, you're going to get written up. Deputy Commissioner Tucker. Okay. And there's 20 or so of these talking in the law library. Inmate Bunt. Yeah, I've had all that. Deputy Commissioner Tucker. What's going on with that? Inmate Bunt. Well, sometimes you got questions in the law library, or you just want to goof around with somebody that's next to you. Not smart, I guess.
Definition. Tier a row of cells in a prison unit.
Deputy Commissioner Tucker. Okay. Then there's something about loitering and respect and escort and Inmate Bunt. Yeah, I was hanging out on the tier. Deputy Commissioner Tucker. Something like that. Anyway, then there's something here in your file from May 24th of 2010 about stopped outgoing mail, and it was gang-related. What's that about?
Definition. Snitch and informant. Someone who provides information to authorities about criminal activity.
Inmate Bunt. Yes, I got the appeal. I followed. Which date was that one? Deputy Commissioner Tucker. May 24th of 2010. Inmate Bunt. May 24th. That was a letter, confiscated a letter. That was a letter that I had written to a friend who I had recently got in contact with. And I had mentioned another old friend of ours who had turned informant. And I guess the IGI felt that I was notifying somebody of being a snitch and didn't want that going out. So that was the reason for that. I guess I don't know if they considered that gang-related information, but that's what I was doing. I was letting this person know that an old friend of ours had become an informant. Deputy Commissioner Tucker. Okay, it sounds as though you're unsure about whether or not that could be misconstrued. Inmate Bunt. I understand now. I think they meant that maybe I could be sending out word that he should be attacked or something, but he had mentioned something to me about it, and what I was, in fact, I believe in this letter telling this guy, was that I had tried to help him out when that person, in fact, contacted me, saying that he was being accused of this. And I told him, well, if there's someone that I could vouch for you that you're a good guy, I'll speak up for you. But later on, it turns out that everyone else was saying, no, he turned informant. And that's what I was letting this person know that we know from Santa Barbara. But this guy had actually moved up to Washington and was unaware of a lot that was going on with old pals of ours. So that's what that one was behind. Deputy Commissioner Tucker. Okay.
Definition. Debrief, to provide information to law enforcement or prison officials about gang activity or other illegal behavior.
Inmate Bunt. And I filed I filed an appeal on it to find out exactly what it was. And that's what the IGI told me it was based on. I said, okay, fine. I won't. There's another one in there, in fact, where I did the exact same thing, letting somebody else know about someone that had become an informant or actually checked in from here to debrief. But that letter there, they allowed me to just scratch it out and then mail it home. And that's the one from 114 you may have. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, 114-2010. Inmate Bunt. Yes. Deputy Commissioner Tucker. Okay, all right. Good enough. Inmate Bunt. Yeah, so I don't write about that no more. Deputy Commissioner Tucker. Okay. Anything else that you want to discuss regarding your disciplinary history? After this, I'm going to move on to your education. Inmate Bunt. Okay. No, that's bad enough.
Definition. TABE score, Test of Adult Basic Education. A standardized test used to assess an adult's skills in reading, math, and language.
Deputy Commissioner Tucker. All right. Looks like you got your GED on 6/5/2009. You have a TABE score of 12.9, and you've completed a couple of courses on the conquest of America in 2009. Looks like 2009 was a good year for you. Inmate Bunt, well, I try to jump on whatever I can because the education here in the SHU has been very limited, so when the college program and the GED program, I jumped on that. I'm in fact on the college waiting list now, and they have educational channel where we can watch on our TVs, and most of it is GED based, but every now and then they'll come out with these programs. In fact, I started one that just came out, one of the self-help programs, Anthony Robbins. I don't know if you're familiar with that motivational speaker. I'm taking his right now, so when they come out, Deputy Commissioner Tucker, is there anything on that channel that has to do with substance abuse treatment or self-help?
Definition: mainline the general population of a prison, as opposed to specialized units like the SHU.
Inmate Bunt, no. And I've tried to contact the mainline here, and I've sent numerous requests to try to get some material, but that never came through. But what I've been doing actually is I deal a lot with that with my father. And he's an ex-alcoholic. He's alcoholic or ex-alcoholic. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, okay. Inmate Bunt, and so I've had many discussions with him about that. We got back in touch in '98. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, okay. Be good if you had a letter about that. That would be from your father saying that you're doing the self-help work, you know. Inmate Bunt, yeah, I try to. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, that would be good. Inmate Bunt, yeah, they're not doing too good right now.
Definition: vocational programming, training programs designed to teach inmates job skills and prepare them for employment after release.
Deputy Commissioner Tucker, tell me about your vocational programming since you've come into the prison. Inmate Bunt, well, I tried to get into that when I was out on the mainline. Nothing was available, so I got into school. I was participating in school until I was involved in the incidents out there, and that's always my intention when I have access to try to get a trade or get into school. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, okay. Inmate Bunt, but because I'm back here in the SHU, they're not available. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, okay. Have we missed anything regarding your? I know what I want to ask you. What did you get from the 2 courses you took on the conquest of the Americas? Inmate Bunt, basically, it's a personal thing. I have a big interest with the history of America and these 2 continents here, North and South America, and it just pretty much encourages me, motivates me to go to the next stage. What's going to benefit me? Deputy Commissioner Tucker, what is the next stage for you? What is going to benefit you? Inmate Bunt, whatever I could get a hold of to make a better impression here in the board, and besides numerous 115s, and that's going to make something beneficial on my part, to get my butt back home, and to my family.
Definition: Criminal West Self-Help Program, a self-help program that uses materials from the Church of Scientology to address criminal behavior.
Deputy Commissioner Tucker, what have you done otherwise in self-help that we may have overlooked? Inmate Bunt, well, I do. What I should have been doing is writing reports on books that I've read, on the shows that have come on, written reports on that, but I always expected to be able to get into some kind of program. But they're just more and more cuts. When that college and GED program came out, I thought more of that would become available. And I blew it, and I should have just been writing more reports. I have started some, and I've contacted some places. I don't know if you want to see. I did send recently my first 3, in fact, my first 3 lessons to the Criminal West Self-Help Program, so they have that. And I contacted this past place. That's just Deputy Commissioner Tucker, you know, he's completed the first 3 lessons. That's Inmate Bunt, yeah, I'm at the early stages, so I'll be doing that. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, if you had certificates, that would be Inmate Bunt, I have no certificates. These are just notes and stuff that I'm trying to get involved in. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, okay, all right. Well, if that concludes everything on your education, vocational and self-help work, then I think I'll move on to the psychological evaluation.
8 definitions. Definition 1, clinical psychologist, a mental health professional with expertise in assessing and treating psychological disorders. Definition 2, unit health record, an inmate's medical file maintained by the prison's healthcare staff. Definition 3, Alcoholics Anonymous, a support group for individuals recovering from alcohol addiction. Definition 4, Narcotics Anonymous, a support group for individuals recovering from drug addiction. Definition 5, Mental Health Services Delivery System, the range of mental health services available to inmates within the correctional system. Definition 6, Insight and Self-Assessment, an inmate's ability to understand their own behavior and its consequences. Definition 7, Relapse Prevention Programming, programs designed to help individuals avoid returning to substance abuse or criminal behavior. Definition 8, Sustaining Routine, regular activities that support an individual's well-being and stability.
Inmate Bunt, all righty. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, all right. Any objection to that? All right. I'll move on to the psychological evaluation. This was prepared by Jefferson Nerney, NERNEY. He is Psy.D. He is a clinical psychologist employed by the Board of Parole Hearings Forensic Assessment Division, and this interview was conducted on 8/2/09. And the clinician indicates that he reviewed the central file and the unit health record, and there was an interview was performed, and he told you it was not confidential, and the results of the assessment would be submitted to the board in the form of a report, and you seem to understand that to the best of your ability. A lot of this the commissioner has already summarized with you, so there's no point in us repeating that. And so childhood, adolescence, family history, education, we've covered, psychosocial development, marital relationship history, adult peer relationships. Here it says that you indicate that you're not a member or, an associate of the Mexican Mafia, Inmate Bunt, either Deputy Commissioner Tucker, okay. And then under leisure and recreation, you have a sustaining routine. He exercises. He writes home, writes to friends, and studies his educational coursework. Income and employment, talks about your work in the community at an auto body shop, landscaping, and work at the airport driving trucks and refurbishing mobile homes, and that your last was fully employed in 1988, mobile home repair company earning $5 an hour. Parole plans are not yet fully defined. Talk about some options there. It says here that you would participate in Alcoholics Anonymous or Narcotics Anonymous if granted release. This report is a couple years old, so I suspect that, things will have changed and perhaps developed a bit more, especially since you asked for 2 more years to develop your parole plans. And the commissioner will be going over your parole plans with you in detail. Under clinical assessment, it says that you're not a participant in the mental health services delivery system, and that while in SHU, under insight and self-assessment, it says that while in SHU, you've been able to reflect on how he became an individual with gang activity. Says that, when he was growing up, he was recognized by gang members for the bad stuff that he did. He believes that being recognized for bad behavior encourages him to continue behaving badly. He stated, I was trying to impress the other guys. I was small, half white and half Mexican American. They always picked on little whitey, so I tried to impress them. Mr. Bunt stated that he is no longer impulsive in his actions, and okay. He says that after being arrested for his life offense, he came to realize that his life had been a waste, that he now was able to see the bigger picture. He believes that drugs and alcohol treatment during his last parole period would have had a chance to turn his life around. He believes that if he received drug and alcohol relapse prevention programming, he would be able to make his life stable and productive. So why didn't you get drug and alcohol treatment during your last parole period? Inmate Bunt, well, I did get involved in the No Tracks on Drugs program and took care of that and was left with drinking and didn't take it serious enough. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, the programs I'm familiar with that administer No Track Zone at methadone clinics, they usually have a drug counselor assigned to them. Did you participate in one-on-ones or group work or anything like that?
2 definitions. Definition 1, detrimental effects, the harmful consequences or negative impacts of something. Definition 2, apparent genuine insight, a seemingly sincere understanding of one's own behavior and its consequences.
Inmate Bunt, I had no idea that was available back then. It was never Deputy Commissioner Tucker. Yeah, that's my familiarity with those types of programs. It says here, the evaluator says, notwithstanding Mr. Bunt's apparent genuine insight into the ideology of his violent-prone personality and the detrimental effects of his drug-seeking behavior, are his recent CDCR rules violation reports since his last board hearing, and it talks about your disciplinaries, kind of being contrary to what you're saying. Inmate Bunt, yeah, exactly.
2 definitions. Definition 1, substance abuse history, a record of an individual's past or present use of drugs or alcohol. Definition 2, San Quentin State Prison, a high-security prison in California known for housing violent and high-risk inmates.
Deputy Commissioner Tucker, medical, refers, there's a diagnosis of hepatitis C and currently being evaluated for potential medical treatment for that condition. Substance abuse history, I think that's been covered by the Commissioner. It says here you started your IV drug use while in San Quentin State Prison. Inmate Bunt, yes. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, was that since you're being received as a life inmate or prior to that?
7 definitions. Definition 1, opioid abuse by history provisional, opioid abuse in the past that needs further confirmation. Definition 2, Axis 2, in the context of a mental health diagnosis, Axis II refers to personality disorders or mental retardation. Definition 3, antisocial personality disorder, a mental disorder characterized by a pattern of disregard for and violation of the rights of others. Definition 4, Axis 3, in the context of a mental health diagnosis, Axis III refers to general medical conditions. Definition 5, Hep C, hepatitis C, a viral infection that causes liver inflammation and damage. Definition 6, mental status evaluation, an assessment of an individual's current mental state, including mood, thought processes, and cognitive function. Definition 7, unremarkable, noteworthy or unusual, normal.
Inmate Bunt, no, that was my first conviction. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, first conviction. Okay, all right. So you were intoxicated during the time of the offense, 0.22, 0.26, and let me see. Then we've got these subsequent ones. The mental status evaluation is unremarkable. Under impulsivity, it says Mr. Bunt admitted he used to be impulsive, often acted without thinking about the consequences, and Mr. Bunt's criminal history and disciplinary history while in custody also. While in custody, his behavior control has been absent on many occasions, and then it talks about, again, your disciplinary history while here in custody. There's some diagnostic impressions by the one clinician here. It says alcohol dependence without 2 physiological dependence in a controlled environment. 3 opioid abuse by history, provisional, and on Axis 2, 4 has an antisocial personality disorder. And Axis 3 is 5 defer to a physician, self-report. And the Unit Health 6 record talks about your Hep C. It talks here about 7 antisocial personality disorder being an established 8 as a pervasive pattern of disregard, for in violation of 9 the rights of others that began prior to the age of 1810 and continued into adulthood. That's a pretty strong 11 statement about your character. Inmate Bunt, yes, it is. Can't argue too much there. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, what's that? Inmate Bunt, can't argue too much there. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, okay. Inmate Bunt, seemed that was a pattern.
3 definitions. Definition 1, PCLR, psychopathy checklist revised, a tool used to assess psychopathic traits in individuals. Definition 2, HCR 20, historical clinical risk management 20, a structured professional judgment tool used to assess the risk of violence. Definition 3, recidivism, the tendency of a convicted criminal to reoffend.
Deputy Commissioner Tucker, here's a criminal history review. I think the Commissioner has already covered that sufficiently. Life crime, the Commissioner has already covered that. And under insight and remorse, I used to carry a knife almost for show, trying to be a tough guy. I think we've really gone into that sufficiently. Mr. Bunt stated, I'm not the guy I was 20 years ago. I quit trying to be a kid who had to be recognized. I see myself now like everybody else. I realize how my past affected my family and my friends and my victims. I wish I could have changed the harm I've done. I know I've changed the past. The lifestyle I led was tough. I've never talked to anyone about all the friends I've lost to that life. The lifestyle sucks. An apparent contradiction, again, he's going to bring up your inmate Bunt, disciplinaries. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, your disciplinary history that kind of flies again in the face of that. Inmate Bunt, exactly. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, but he gives you some credit here. He says, Mr. Bunt appeared sincere in his expression of remorse brought about by his grief, but his perspective is maturing. So he's giving you some credit there for some movement, you know? Inmate Bunt, I'll take it. Deputy Commissioner Tucker, okay, all right. Moving forward here to page 9, Institutional History and Programming. I think that we've covered that. And then we're into the assessment for risk of violence. And here's this fad where they use these 3 instruments, the psychopathy checklist, the PCLR, and the HCR-20, and in each of these instances, I think that separately, they each put you in the high-risk range, either for recidivism or for violence, and they give you an overall rating of a high risk for violence in the free community. So anyway, if you'd like to make any more comments regarding, the psychological evaluation, now would be the time. Inmate Bunt. No. Only that, I could understand where he would make that kind of determination, because apparently I ain't done enough, reflected enough about involving myself with weapon-type material and matters of that. And until I do, anything else I bring up or try to do is not going to have that positive effect. So I get it. Deputy Commissioner Tucker. Okay. Anything you'd like to add to that, Mr. Liddicoat, before I turn the hearing over to the Commissioner, Attorney Liddicote? No, sir, Deputy Commissioner Tucker, all right. I'll turn it over to the Commissioner at this time. Presiding Commissioner Mosley, all right, thanks. At this time, we'll talk about parole plans if you were to be released and also address some of the correspondence that has been received in support and in opposition. Inmate Bunt. Okay. Letters of support that you indicated. The first is from Elizabeth Garcia, your daughter, and in it, she indicates that she's willing to provide assistance to you should you be released, and that is not only with regards to housing, but also believes that she can provide some leads on employment. And so, she provides some specificity on how her and her husband could do that to help give you a well-grounded and structured life. That letter was dated December 8, 2011. The next letter we have is dated December 7, 2011, and this is from Carol Ashford, and this is your sister, correct? Inmate Bunt, yes. Presiding Commissioner, Mosley. And she also has indicated her willingness to provide you with a place to live, and that she believes she can also help you get employment. Inmate Bunt, they own their own business.
Definition. Letterhead, stationery printed with the name, address, and logo of an organization.
Presiding Commissioner, Mosley. And then next we have a letter dated December 20, 2011 from Walt Erickson, and this is on letterhead from Woodglen, WOODGLEN Recovery Junction, and this is a residential 90-day treatment program that has offered you an opportunity to participate. What kind of a treatment program is it?
Definition. Transitional housing homes, facilities that provide temporary housing and support services to individuals transitioning out of prison or other institutions.
Inmate Bunt, move in with my daughter and her husband. Presiding Commissioner Mosley. Move in with your daughter and participate in this program. Inmate Bunt, if that would be approved because they're out of Santa Barbara County. They live down in Orange County. Presiding Commissioner Mosley, I see. So your daughter lives in Orange County. Inmate Bunt, Orange County. Presiding Commissioner Mosley, and the recovery junction is in which county? Inmate Bunt, Orange County also. Presiding Commissioner Mosley, I see. Okay, so they're near each other. And what is it then specifically you see yourself doing to support yourself? Inmate Bunt. Well, getting help at first initially from my family until I'm able to obtain some type of training or job placement. My daughter is familiar with several places where they try to locate places where you could fit in with your job experience, and she was able to. She had gotten laid off, and in fact, got another job within a week. So these programs that they work with are pretty good. But my preference would be to go to these transitional housing homes, where they actually can set you up with job training program that I feel I would need, because I've been back here in the SHU so long and not able to be on the mainline, where I could get proper training I'm probably going to need. Presiding Commissioner Mosley. Okay. I also want to note for the record that we did receive a letter in opposition from the City of Lompoc Police Department dated November 22, 2011, including some information surrounding the life crime that they believe is relevant for the panel's consideration. And you made mention earlier, and I did now find a copy of a letter from the Office of the District Attorney in Santa Barbara. I don't know if you've had an opportunity to Inmate Bunt. No, I haven't received a copy.
Definition: trial attorney, an attorney who represents a party in a legal case.
Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. I'll just note for the record that the letter is dated January 3, 2012, and it's written by the trial attorney in the case, who also recommends that you be denied parole. And I'll provide a copy to your counsel in case he hasn't received it so that he can discuss it with you, if you like. Inmate Bunt, that's fine. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY, that's the extent of the correspondence that we've received in this case. Is there any other documentation that we should consider?
Definition: inroads progress.
Inmate Bunt, that's it on my part. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, all right. Then unless there are any other questions from the panel, I'll let your attorney, Mr. Liddicoat, make any clarification questions that he wishes to. Attorney LIDDICOT, I have a copy of that. Inmate Bunt, okay, thank you. Attorney LIDDICOT, you can have that copy. Inmate Bunt, okay, thank you. Attorney LIDDICOT, I'm sorry, counsel. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, no, that's okay. I was asking if there are any clarification questions that you wish to make. Attorney LIDDICOT, number Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, all right then. At this time, we'll invite your attorney to make a closing statement, and then after that, you can address the panel as well. Inmate Bunt, okay. Attorney LIDDICOT, well, Mr. Bunt has made some inroads. He's got crimin going. He's got involving himself in educational television. I would ask that his alleged association with the IME not be considered here, because as I understand the criteria for granting or not granting a parole date are actions and not status. And 2, if anything, without any activity, any IME association 3 would be a status thing like the community chest or 4 something. He's got marginal activity, maybe 5 with the IMEs, and what he alleges that he's been 6 qualified with his artwork, which there is the case I-7 gave the commissioners that say that artwork alone 8 doesn't make you an IME or an associate. I noted his 9 facial expression when he was talking about the Life 10 crime, and he was coming near to tears, and despite the 11 fact that he may have smiled a little bit about his 12 childhood, I think that was a smile of embarrassment. 13, but the remorse that he showed, by the way he sort of 14 choked up and had difficulty speaking when talking about 15 the life crime, shows me that he is expressing true 16 remorse from the heart. And the fact that he wrote in 17 apology letter to the family is indicative of his 18 attitude. And that despite a few setbacks here with the 19 weapons in 2006 and 07, I believe he's made great 20 progress. And if the board is inclined to deny him, to 21 give him a short denial and give him some guidance as to 22 what the board would like to see the next time, and let 23 him come back here in a few years and demonstrate to the 24 board that he can obtain a date to get out. Thank you.
2 definitions. Definition 1, California Supreme Court, the highest court in the state of California responsible for interpreting the state's laws. Definition 2, immutable factors, characteristics that cannot be changed such as past criminal history.
Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, thank you, Mr. Bunt. 1 assessment, and we've also considered the written 2 responses we received from the public, including the 3 letter from the City of Lompoc Police Department, the 4 letter from the Santa Barbara District Attorney's 5 office, as well as the letters received in support from 6, the inmates' family members and friends. And in 7 addition to that, we've obviously considered the 8 testimony that was provided here today by Mr. Bunt. The 9 fundamental consideration in making a parole eligibility 10 decision is the potential threat to public safety upon 11 an inmate's release. Accordingly, a denial of parole 12 must be based upon evidence in the record of the 13 inmates' current dangerousness. Having these legal 14 standards in mind, we find that Mr. Bunt does pose an 15 unreasonable risk of danger to society or a threat to 16 public safety, and is therefore not eligible for parole 17 at this time. For reasons that I'll explain later in 18 this decision, The panel has concluded that a 7-year 19 denial period is appropriate under the circumstances. 20. The panel does wish to note for the record that there 21 are some circumstances tending to show suitability for 22 parole in this case. For instance, Mr. Bunt has shown 23 increasing signs of remorse, in that he has written a 24 letter of apology to the family of the victim, that the 25 Byron Bunt C41557 decision, page 21512 panel read, and considered during deliberations, and his 2 testimony here today also indicated an increasing sign 3 of remorse for his actions. Mr. Bunt is also of an age 4 that is increasingly reducing the probability of 5 recidivism. Mr. Bunt is currently 50 years old. Having 6 committed the crime when he was 26 means that he spent 24 years incarcerated for this life crime, and with 8 that, we certainly recognize the probability of 9 recidivism is reduced through your age. We also took 10 note that your parole plans are viable in that you found 11 through the support of family members both housing, a 12 transitional program, as well as the potential for jobs. 13, and so those factors did indicate suitability. However, 14 they were outweighed by other circumstances tending to 15 show unsuitability, and suggest that if released at this 16 time, Mr. Bunt would pose a potential threat to public 17 safety. Specifically, of course, we note the gruesome 18 offense itself, and the manner in which it was carried 19 out with the use of a knife and 11 stab wounds, 20 resulting in the death of Mr. Anciola. Your reasons for 21 committing the crime, the alcohol, the argument, of 22 course in no way justify your actions, something that 23 you yourself recognized during this hearing. We also 24 took note of your previous record. Your criminal 25 Byron Bunt C41557 decision page 31512 record, of course, includes some of the burglaries and 2 other theft-type actions that we discussed during the 3 hearing. But more relevant to the panel were some of the 4 acts of violence that your record possesses, such as the 5 battery in 75, the numerous instances of possessing a 6 deadly weapon, as well as the assault with a deadly 7 weapon in 1981. And then there are other assaultive 8 behaviors that occurred while incarcerated. But what 9 this all does is it brings together a pattern that 10 suggest there are some anger management issues that you 11 need to address so that you can find a means of 12 resolving conflict without turning to violence. Now, 13 having said that, we certainly recognize that the 14 California Supreme Court has ruled that after a long 15 period of time, immutable factors, such as your record 16 of violence and the life crime itself, the commitment 17 offense, may no longer indicate a current risk of danger 18 to society in light of a lengthy period of 19 rehabilitation. So the panel turned to look at your 20 rehabilitative steps, and we're simply going to point 21 out those areas that we believe indicate there has not 22 been a sustained, lengthy period of positive 23 rehabilitation, for which a denial is therefore 24 appropriate. First of all, of course, we look at your 25 Byron Bunt C41557 decision page 41512, serious misconduct while in prison. Mere possession of weapon stock, of course, is a serious rule violation because it compromises the safety and security of the institution. Inmate Bunt, right. Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, and it also has a relationship back to your life crime, which should make you especially sensitive to possessing any type of instruments that could be perceived as a weapon. That repeated behavior occurring again in 2006 and 2007 causes us concern because you should be the one Inmate Bunt. Yes.
2 definitions. Definition 1, violated. Break the terms of parole by committing new crimes or breaking conditions of release. Definition 2, nexus to dangerousness. Connection or link between past behavior and potential for future harm.
Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY. That has it within yourself to first and foremost be hypersensitive, given your life crime facts. And so we point to that serious misconduct, and we recognize also that there have been many previous parolees, which you violated, sometimes again for possession of deadly weapons. So this pattern is something for you to break down, understand, and decide for yourself what it's going to take to avoid it. Because otherwise, The easy access to weapons upon release suggests that your habit of arming yourself could once again cause an argument to escalate to a violent encounter. And that nexus to dangerousness, one on the street, because of your propensity to arm to yourself, is something that you need to demonstrate in 3, the institution, and something you're going to avoid at 4, all costs going forward. We also took note of your 5 institutional activities, and while we certainly commend 6 you for starting to engage in some very important 7 institutional activities that might indicate an enhanced 8 ability to function on the outside, what's noted is that 9, they haven't been sustained yet. 10, Inmate Bunt. Right. 11, Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, and there needs 12 to be a lot more in-depth work in some of these areas. 13, Inmate Bunt, as far as certificate work. 14, Presiding Commissioner MOSELEY, certificates, 15, but it's not about getting the certificates. It's about 16, what you learn from the process. So for instance, 17, you've started the Crimin program, which is an 18 important milestone, but you're at basically step 1 of 19 that program. And in coming forward to a panel again in 20, the future, and being able to demonstrate that you've 21 completed the program. But more importantly, what have 22 you gained from the program? What did it teach you about 23 yourself that causes you to now change your attitude 24 toward certain things and be a better person? That's 25 BYRON Bunt C41557 decision, page 6, 1512, what ultimately is important. Those are the kind of institutional activities that indicate you can function if released. Another example is we certainly commend you for working with your father to address some of the alcohol issues that have been a repeated pattern in your life. But that, of course, is also at its infancy. And so something that perhaps your family members could do to help you is provide you with the reading material so that you can begin to dig in, read them, learn from them, apply them to your own life, and produce some written book reports or perhaps a relapse prevention plan. Inmate Bunt, okay.
Definition: internalized, adopted certain beliefs or attitudes.
Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. The kind of demonstration that you've internalized what these programs are meant to teach you so that you can demonstrate the chance of a relapse for alcoholism, which is so prevalent on the outside and readily available, is not something that's going to cause you to reoffend, because that would be the concern. And so, of course, looking at your rules violations that relate to alcohol occurring in 89, 93, and 2007, once again, we see that pattern that reaches all the way back to your life crime. And so needing to be super sensitive, BYRON Bunt C41557 decision, page 7, 1512, that was your downfall, along with other things, is a matter of learning the lessons of that, learning how to lick that dependency on alcohol, and then demonstrate to the panel that you're a changed person. Inmate Bunt, all right.
Definition: expert opinion, testimony provided by someone who has specific knowledge on a certain subject.
Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. We also took note that the risk assessment that was prepared by Dr. Nerney and approved on September 3, 2009, was indicative, based on a number of assessments, of a high risk for potential violence if released. We indicate that simply because it's one of many factors that we consider. In essence, it's an expert opinion that's based on the interview with you and various tools that the psychologist has at their disposal, but it's just that, an opinion. It's prepared by an expert, so of course, we give that some weight, but it's not the determinate factor for this panel. Inmate Bunt, right. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. We consider it, along with all the other information that we have here today, and most importantly for panels, it's important to have a face-to-face hearing, because that's when we get to hear you describe what may have been misunderstood during your interview with the psychologist, what additional information is available to clarify that, and you did some of that today. That's an important part of turning what is a paper report into a more meaningful instrument. Inmate Bunt, right. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. And I think you found, as we discussed some parts of the report, that while you may not have agreed with every opinion that the psychologist held, you could see some of the information that would cause the psychologist to believe the way that they did. Inmate Bunt, right. Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY. And yet, having said that, ultimately we're considering it as just one piece of the puzzle when we make our final decision. So based on all of these findings, we conclude that Mr. Bunt poses an unreasonable risk of danger and a threat to public safety if he's released from prison at this time. Accordingly, the panel finds Mr. Bunt ineligible for parole. Before moving on to discuss the length of denial that the panel has decided is applicable in this case, I'll ask if Deputy Commissioner Tucker has any additional information to add to the record. Deputy Commissioner Tucker. Thank you, Commissioner Mosley. Mr. Bunt, there's a lot that could be said about helping you prepare yourself for your next hearing, but the big things that need to be said will be said by the Commissioner and are going to have to do with your disciplinary, about preparing yourself through self-help work, getting yourself a job, demonstrating that you can work cooperatively with others, and again, pursuing anything that you can educationally that will benefit you. Inmate Bunt, right. Deputy Commissioner Tucker. To include a vocational programming. You have to figure out what it is you need to do to get out of here, and you've got to pursue it with your whole heart, and you've got to cut yourself off from anybody who could connect you to any kind of gang activity. And so that would be the things that I would offer you to encourage you. We do see the beginning. I think Mr. Liddicoat has helped you with some of that. We did see some indications of remorse, and I think that Mr. Mosley will include this with the inaudible.
Definition: 120-day review period. The amount of time for the BPH to review the parole hearing before making a decision.
Inmate Bunt, thank you. 1. Presiding Commissioner Mosley, thank you. I too would inform you that this decision is not final, but 3 will become final after a 120-day review period by the 4 BPH Decision Review Unit. If there are any 5 modifications or corrections, you will be notified of 6 that in writing. With regards to the denial period, the 7 panel is required under the law to first consider 8 whether a 15-year period of denial is appropriate or a 9-10-year period of denial is appropriate. In this case, 10 we found information and evidence that suggests a 7-11-year period of denial is appropriate. And specifically, 12 we took note, of course, of the improving signs of 13 remorse that we've described earlier. We also took note 14 that while in custody, when it comes to acts of 15 violence, not merely possessing dangerous weapons, but 16 an actual act of violence, your last instance occurred 17 in 1992, which indicates 19 years of violence-free 18 behavior. And so that's a factor to consider in this 19 regard. We also took note of your increasing age, which 20 reduces the probability of recidivism, and finally took 21 note of the realistic parole plans that you developed in 22 conjunction with your family. And based on all of that 23 information and evidence, we do find clear and 24 convincing evidence that a 7-year period of denial 25 BYRON Bunt C41557 decision page 111512, and not a 15 or a 10 is appropriate under the circumstances. Please be aware that you can request an earlier hearing.
Definition: Form 1045A, form to request an earlier parole hearing.
Inmate Bunt, I was wondering, Presiding Commissioner Mosley. That's correct. And the way to do that is to speak with your correctional counselor to obtain a Form 1045A, and on it, you'll be asked to indicate any change of circumstance or new information that you believe indicates that a hearing earlier than the 7-year period is appropriate, meaning that you don't require additional incarceration to demonstrate that you're suitable for parole. So that is something that, as you work on some of these programs, and some of the suggestions that the Deputy Commissioner gave you as well, you can, at some point, if you believe you've amassed enough information that a lesser period of time is required for the panel to come to a conclusion about suitability, you can include that on your Form 1045 and submit it. With regards to specific recommendations, again, as the Deputy Commissioner has indicated, the most important thing you can do, of course, is continue to reduce your custody level by avoiding the 115s and the other disciplinary actions. Those are simply going BYRON Bunt C41557 decision, page 121512, to not only add to your custody level, but prevent you from engaging in some of the more helpful programming. Inmate Bunt, right. Presiding Commissioner Mosley. That might be available, but even if the helpful programming in an organized way is not available, we certainly encourage you through self-study to look into areas such as victim awareness, substance abuse, and anger management, so that you can begin to develop even the vocabulary. Inmate Bunt, okay.
Definition: positive chronos, a record of good behavior.
Presiding Commissioner, MOSELEY, to describe what your understanding of the actions you committed have as far as consequences and how you've improved yourself since then. Then, finally, we would point out that it's always important to consider earning positive chronos. I think that's kind of phrased in a funny way, but what the panel really means is that while we may see you at an occasional hearing, correctional staff and other staff see you on a day-to-day basis. And when you've demonstrated a pattern of behavior and attitude that causes one of them to write a positive chrono and enter it into your file, that has a lot of bearing on the panel's decision. Because those are individuals saying we've seen him on a regular basis, and he is Byron Bunt C41557 decision, page 13, 1512.
Image summary. This image is a document from the State of California Board of Parole Hearings regarding a subsequent parole consideration hearing. The hearing concerns the matter of the life-term parole consideration for Byron Bunt, CDC number C41557. The hearing took place at Pelican Bay State Prison in Crescent City, California, on January 5, 2012. At 1:10 p.m. the panel present included Howard Mosley, Presiding Commissioner, and Stephen Tucker, Deputy Commissioner. Others present were Byron Bunt, Inmate, Harry Liddicoat, Attorney for Inmate, Troy Wood, Captain, Security Housing Unit, and an unidentified correctional officer. Corrections to the decision were noted, with a review of the hearing transcript memorandum indicated. Image summary. This image shows the index of a document. The index lists various sections such as proceedings, case factors, pre-commitment factors, post-commitment factors, parole plans, closing statements, recess, decision, adjournment, and transcript certification. Each section is associated with a specific page number. Image summary. The image displays a transcript of a conversation. The discussion involves an ADA review, where the presiding commissioner inquires about the inmate's ability to read and any potential disabilities. The inmate confirms their ability to read with glasses and acknowledges their right to ask for help if they have any kind of disability. Image summary. The image is a transcript of a conversation. The conversation is between Presiding Commissioner Mosley, Inmate Bunt, and Attorney Liddicoat. Presiding Commissioner Mosley is asking Inmate Bunt questions about his GED, mental health programs, medications, and pre-hearing rights. Inmate Bunt answers that he has a GED, is not participating in any mental health programs, is not on any medications, and remembers discussing his pre-hearing rights. Attorney Liddicoat agrees that Inmate Bunt's rights have been met. Image summary. This is an image of a transcript. The transcript shows a conversation between Inmate Bunt and Presiding Commissioner mostly regarding letters received by the inmate. The discussion revolves around letters from various sources, including the Office of Victim and Survivor Rights and Services, the Police Department, and family members. The inmate clarifies the relationship with the letter writers. Image summary. The image presents a transcript of a conversation. The discussion involves an inmate, a presiding commissioner, and an attorney. The inmate mentions having documents related to his daughter and a review of CDC policy changes concerning FAD psych evaluation reports. The attorney refers to a discussion about psych reports and a document that needs to be read. The commissioner seeks to confirm if there are any other documents for the panel to consider. Image summary. The image is a transcript of a conversation. Presiding Commissioner mostly acknowledged concerns about working with a document and suggested collaboration. An attorney, Liddicoat, waived the presence of correctional officers. The panel, including the Deputy Commissioner, excused themselves for consultation. Inmate Bunt expressed gratitude for a recess. Image summary. This is an image of a transcript of a conversation between Inmate Bunt and Presiding Commissioner Mosley. Inmate Bunt expresses concern about his social relationships in the past, particularly regarding his son's mother, and how that is being used against him in his risk assessment. Presiding Commissioner Mosley assures Inmate Bunt that he will have an opportunity to address these concerns during the hearing and provide additional information. Image summary. The image contains a transcript of a discussion. The discussion revolves around a risk assessment and its validity. One participant questions the accuracy of the risk assessment, while another emphasizes that it is only one factor among many being considered. The discussion also touches on potential errors or clarifications regarding the information in the risk assessment. Image summary. The image shows a transcript of a legal proceeding. An inmate expresses concern that artwork they brought will be used to determine their suitability. The presiding commissioner states that the panel will not rely on the artwork to determine suitability, as there is additional information to consider. The commissioner clarifies that while the artwork will not be a factor, other information in the central file may be considered. Image summary. This image contains a conversation between Presiding Commissioner Mosley and Inmate Bunt. They are discussing a trespassing incident that occurred when Inmate Bunt was in boys' camp. Inmate Bunt admits to breaking into an empty cabin. They also discuss Inmate Bunt absconding from Rancho San Antonio and being placed at GBPH. Image summary. This is an image of a conversation between Presiding Commissioner Mosley and Inmate Bunt. The conversation is about the crime that involved a girlfriend. Presiding Commissioner Mosley inquired if the female acquaintance was Inmate Bunt's girlfriend, to which Inmate Bunt responded that she was not. Image summary. This document presents a conversation between Presiding Commissioner Mosley and Inmate Bunt, where they discuss the events leading to and including the stabbing incident. The discussion covers the immediate aftermath of the stabbing, including the victim's location and the actions of others present. The conversation explores the reasons behind carrying the knife, with Inmate Bunt stating it was to appear tough. The commissioner emphasizes the violent nature of stabbing, comparing it to using a handgun. The conversation concludes with the revelation that the victim was stabbed multiple times. Image summary. The image shows a conversation. The conversation is between Presiding Commissioner Mosley and Inmate Bunt. The conversation is about tattoos and what they represent. The tattoos seem to represent a gang. Image summary. This image contains a conversation between Presiding Commissioner Mosley and Inmate Bunt. They discuss the meaning of Santa Barbara as a neighborhood reference and potential gang affiliation. The conversation also touches on the spelling of Cal Milpas and its connection to a gang group. Inmate Bunt expresses embarrassment about his tattoos and interest in laser removal. Image summary. This image contains a transcribed conversation. The conversation discusses factors that could suggest an unstable social history, such as deceit and lack of commitment in relationships. The conversation also touches on the role of upbringing and the presence or absence of parents in shaping one's social history. The conversation suggests that unstable relationships and a challenging upbringing could contribute to an unstable social history. Image summary. This image contains a conversation between Deputy Commissioner Tucker and Inmate Bunt. The conversation revolves around Inmate Bunt's past behavior, particularly his use of a knife to intimidate others. Deputy Commissioner Tucker observes that Inmate Bunt seemed proud when discussing these past actions. Inmate Bunt acknowledges the observation and states that while there might have been pride at the time, he does not feel that way now. Image summary. The image shows a transcript of a discussion. The discussion involves Presiding Commissioner Mosley and Inmate Bunt. The discussion includes topics such as a letter from the Office of Victim and Survivor Rights and Services, an apology letter written by the inmate, and the availability of copies of the letter. Image summary. This image shows a conversation between Inmate Bunt and Presiding Commissioner Mosley. Inmate Bunt acknowledges alcohol and substance abuse issues. The conversation discusses a substance abuse program and Inmate Bunt's acceptance into it. They explore parole plans, including living with Inmate Bunt's daughter or participating in a substance abuse program with AA and NA programming, group therapy, and job placement. The discussion confirms that the mentioned programs align with Recovery Junction and are located near Inmate Bunt's daughter's residence. Image summary. The image shows the end of a hearing or interview. Inmate Bunt expresses gratitude for the time and consideration given. The presiding commissioner announces a recess for deliberations. Image summary. This document is a decision from the California Board of Parole Hearings. It includes details such as the date of the hearing, the time, and the parties present. It mentions that Mr. Bunt was received into the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation on a specific date following a conviction for second-degree murder. The document also states the length of his sentence and the victim's name. Image summary. The image presents a transcript of a legal proceeding, specifically a parole consideration hearing. The content includes dialogue between various parties, such as an inmate, an attorney, and a presiding commissioner. The discussion revolves around the inmate's behavior, potential for parole, and the importance of positive reports from correctional staff. The final decision is that parole is denied for 7 years, with the decision to be finalized on a specific date.
Certificate and Declaration of Transcriber. I, CHERYLSORNSEN, as the official transcriber, hereby certify that the attached proceedings, in the matter of the Life CDC number C41557 term parole consideration hearing of Byron Bunt Pelican Bay State Prison, Crescent City, California, January 5, 2012, 1:10 p.m. were held as herein appears. Further, this transcript is a true, complete, and accurate record, to the best of my ability, of the recorded material.